and just make sure we record.
Yeah, we're recording. Cool, we have gone live.
Lovely, thank you, Luke. Hi everyone, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar on our new service called the SAM MOT. I am one of the directors at EasySAM and just wanted to personally thank you all for taking the time out to attend the webinar. Luke will be taking over in a short while and will be running through the presentation with us. Just a bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, please don't feel shy to pop it in the Q&A box. I believe there's a little question mark inside of a speech bubble at the top of your Teams that lets you leave those questions there. And we've allocated some time at the end of the presentation for Luke and myself to go through those questions with you. Right, so Luke, if I can hand over to you.
Brilliant, thanks a lot for that, May. Cool, so this is the webinar today. So we're going to be looking at who EasySAM are, what we do, and also focusing on one of our engagements we're currently pushing at the moment called our SAM MOT. So to begin, who we are. So EasySAM, we're a software asset management consultancy. We're an independent software asset management consultancy. So what we mean by that is we act as an impartial advisory body without any agenda other than to provide analysis and advice around the software you own and how it's deployed. So typically what we do is we help organizations correct any overspend on software to make sure that any risks are proactively identified and addressed. Just as software as an asset can be easily overlooked in any organization. So our overall aim is to help you save money on your overall IT budget. Some as May alluded to earlier, some general housekeeping that we see a lot. Software accounts for up to 34% of IT budgets. So software can, so driving down costs on software can receive massive savings for any company. We also find that a mature SAM program can help reduce help desk length by up to 20%. So for a company of 500 PCs, averaging 4 help desk tickets a year, we can see savings of £16,000 per year just on that. So today we're going to be looking at some of the engagements we do and some services, and also talking about the partner model that EasySAM use. So we work with a lot of other IT resellers who don't offer SAM services at the moment, and we see that as a USP for us. So the reason we see it as a USP, it means for the resellers, the person who's getting the licensing advice is different to the person selling them the licenses, and we see that as a real advantage for the customer, because it means the person, as I just mentioned, the person selling the license is different to the person who's telling them what licenses to buy. I'm not sure if you have anything else you want to add on to that, May.
No, I think you've done a good overview of what it is that EasySAM sort of bring to market. Obviously, hopefully everyone on the call today understands what SAM is. So software asset management is so much more than just software licensing. It's actually the asset management, so the management of that asset, of that license through the life cycle or through its life cycle, and to just make sure that in the process you're purchasing through the right models, you're not overspending where you can help it, and you're not perhaps paying for things that you're not using. So you're optimizing both on your purchase and your agreements and things like that. Yeah, so I'll let you continue, Luke.
Cool, thanks a lot for that, May. Maybe we'll go to the next slide next. Brilliant. So now we're going to look at the kind of typical services that we offer day to day as a consultancy. So the first one on this list is tool selection. So a lot of our work at the moment is based around helping organizations select a SAM tool that's perfect for them. Now, the reason this is an interesting point is because a lot of SAM tool providers will have relationships with IT resellers, for instance. So if a customer has a requirement for a SAM tool, what they'll typically do is they'll go to the place where they buy their licenses from and say, hey, we need a SAM tool. And then they'll recommend the tool which they have worked with, which they've exclusively worked with for the last few years. Whereas the approach we take, where we have no preference as to which tool we're going to put forward, we can then use a wide range of tools to put forward to make sure you're getting the best requirements for your needs. So rather than you going to I don't know, an imaginary reseller that just sells snow and then just having a look at snow, we can then look at your environment and say, hey, this is the best tool for you, and then go from there. Cool. The next one on the list is the SAM MOT. So we're going to come on to this in a bit more detail later on in the presentation, but essentially this is a high-level engagement over the SAM processes and procedures that you're currently doing in-house. So part of this, as again, we'll come on to this a bit later, but a part of this, we will produce a gap analysis for you showing where you can optimize your in-house SAM processes and procedures. Next on the list is the SAMplicity 365 assessment. So this is a relatively new engagement for us, and this has a real focus around optimizing 365, hence the name SAMplicity 365. So we're noticing a lot of customers are shifting to cloud models at the moment, and with this, there is obviously software asset management challenges again, like there would be in any other licensing capacity. So what we do with our SAMplicity 365 engagement in a nutshell is we look at your Office 365 tenancy. We then deploy a tool using the information from your Office 365 tenant, and then we can look at how Office 365 is being used in your environment. So an example of the kind of area we would see savings in this is when a company would move to Office 365, they might buy 2,000 E3 licenses, for an example. And so everyone from the janitor to the CEO will all be on the same licenses, when the chances are majority of those people might just be able to go on an E1 license. So it's a really quick and easy win for the customer. Cool. Next one on the list is our software baseline assessment. So this typically is a single vendor audit, whereby a vendor chosen by the customer will come to us and will say, hey, we want to find out what our Microsoft platform looks like, as an example. We'll then come in and then, using either tool sets provided by the customer or a tool set that we've recommended by us, we'll produce an effective license position showing how the licenses are deployed, and also some upgrade and downgrade rights. On top of that, we have our managed service offering, which encompasses all of the previous engagements, and then some more stuff on the side. May turn on the call now, leads up our managed service team. So May, I'm not sure if you wanted to give everyone on the call an overview of the managed service in a bit more detail.
Yeah, so obviously you can see on the slide in front of you the plethora of obviously offerings that EasySAM can provide, and the managed services are really just a concreted version of that, and it's very much so customizable to the customer. Obviously, we deal with customers of all shapes and sizes across all sort of industries, and with all different SAM maturity models. So some customers may not be as developed or as far down that road as others. So our managed service is certainly something that's usually a 3-year engagement, where we put in place a more concreted plan in terms of what vendors we're going to focus on, what processes are we going to scrutinize, what training in-house needs to take place, and deliver that on a more frequent basis than the baselines that obviously Luke has already alluded to.
Brilliant, thanks a lot for that, May. So just to follow on from the managed service offering, we also offer training services or training courses around software asset management. And finally, the last on the list, the license resale. So this is quite an interesting engagement, again, that not too many people know about. So we can actually get you money back for perpetually owned old licenses. So an example of this, if you've just moved to the cloud and say you have all of these Office Professional Plus 2019 licenses, they still have an intrinsic value. Sorry. So we can, and so what we do is we can vet that these licenses are in fact surplus, and then we go out to market and get you some value back for these. So yeah, so this can be a quick win for the customer, because essentially it's money for nothing. The analogy we often give is, if you were to own an organization where you had a fleet of vehicles, for instance, once you upgrade those vehicles, which you would do, I don't know, every 5 to 10 years or so, you wouldn't just let the old vehicles decay. You would sell them on, or you would sell them for parts or whatever. So why is licensing any different? So that's kind of what the premise of this engagement is. We find you some surplus licenses, and then we go out to market and get you some money back for them. Cool. We'll go to the next slide, please, mate. Brilliant. So next up on the presentation, we're going to be looking into our SAM health check, or our SAM MOT, as we like to call it. So what this engagement is, we call it a SAM MOT, is essentially what we're doing is a high-level health check of your internal SAM processes, policies and procedures, and also your internal SAM strategy. So we call it SAM MOT because once a year you take the time to MOT your vehicles, as that's an important asset to you. So why would you not take the time to look at your software assets? So our SAM MOT is designed to give you not only just an insight into your SAM management program, but also into your SAM strategy as a whole and the data it's comprised of. As you see on the presentation, there's also a section alluding to data quality. So the service includes a 365 health check, as we mentioned earlier, to help optimize your Microsoft 365 estate. And then, so once we've done this engagement, through a series of questionnaires, we then produce an improvement plan, so a gap analysis and improvement plan based on compared to the ITIL standard. So we'll come onto this slide just after this one, but essentially what we do is we work with you to figure out what areas your SAM practice needs improvement on, and then also produce a plan with you to how to right size that. So this is a one-time project. And as we mentioned earlier, software accounts for up to 34% of IT budgets, and the SAM MOT can be a great step to ensuring that you're starting to do SAM correctly. Cool. So yeah, on the slide now we're seeing typically how much work it is for us and how long it will take, dependent on the size of the organisation. I'm not sure if there was anything you wanted to add to the previous slide, May, in terms of the SAM MOT and some other information about it.
Yeah, so if I may sort of share a bit about the origins of the SAM MOT. So what we found, during the turbulent year that was 2020, was that we found that budgets were restricted, and certainly other projects and problems within IT sort of did hog the space where we had actually begun conversations with people around SAM. So the idea and sort of the concept around the SAM MOT was, to try and fit in the gap, the small amount of time that IT departments have to commit to this area of IT, and the smaller budgets that they've been given to align to it. So by no means is the first step anymore a full-blown baseline and all the decision making that needs to come with that from the customer's perspective. What we're offering here is something that can be done in a couple of days at a relatively low expense, and it's pretty much going to tell you everything you need to know. It's going to tell you where your holes are, and it's not just going to tell you that, it's also going to tell you how to patch them. So what we recommend sort of in terms of next step, and certainly highlight to you perhaps gaps in sort of process and data that you weren't aware of.
Cool, yeah, brilliant. Thanks a lot for that, May. Just to add on one other small point to that as well. So Gartner recently published an article that said 80% of customers that buy a SAMs will fail to see a return on investment on their purchase. And this engagement here, we think, is a great way in helping you recognise that value. Well, should we go to the next slide, May? Cool, brilliant. Thanks a lot for that, May. So this is the screen on the slide now. This is an example of the deliverables. So out of the back of the engagement, this is the document that will be published, along with the scoring based on the ITIL standards. So what we have here, this would be the improvement plan. Again, sorry to hand over you again, May, but I think you might be best placed to talk through maybe what kind of results customers would expect to find on the gap analysis.
Right, yeah, so as you sort of already alluded to, the gap analysis is closely aligned with standards. So it's looking at things like the ISO standard, a BSA best practice, and it's giving you a scoring against sort of where we'd expect you to be, and obviously notes and comments on how to get there. We also have a look at sort of basic scoring across all the models, not just for standard alignment, but also for a maturity assessment. So Microsoft were the first people to sort of introduce this maturity model that you're seeing in front of you at the moment, and ideally it's telling you, and it's, you know, sort of dumbing it down a little bit for you, telling you which category you fall into at the moment, and where you want to be, and obviously, again, like we were saying, how to get there. And obviously conversations that lead on from these type of sort of high level scoring reports are really invaluable, because it sort of leads on to the real cost savings. Obviously, the MOT itself can produce some instant ROI for you. Luke was talking earlier about the fact that we do take a sample of your 365 accounts and are able to sort of identify to you inactive accounts or maybe poor adoption. But certainly the real ROI is going to be pointed out to the business through the SAM MOT. Right, Luke, I think we're done on the presentation. It is now time for any questions. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to bring up the questions we have received. So if anyone hasn't popped a question through, please feel free to still send them through while we're chatting. So, Luke, do you want me to read them, and you can give an answer for us?
Yeah, for sure, if that's all right. Yeah, and then yeah, maybe I'll lean on you for some of the technical stuff.
Right. So the first questions come in. Says, are the MOTs customizable? I.e., can we add elements not already on offer?
That's a great question, and 100% we can as well. So, for example, if rather than just getting the overview and seeing the areas that your SAM process might need to improve on, and say you might want to incorporate that with a baseline so you can get some data along with that, we can 100% do that. So yeah, as just mentioned, if you want to wrap that around with a baseline, that would then give you both two good cost saving areas, because you could optimize your SAM process, but then you'd also have the report from doing a baseline where you could see firsthand the areas where you can save money quickly. So you can see places where you can upgrade, downgrade. You'll be able to see where you can resell secondhand software. You'll be able to see where you're over licensed. So yeah, 100% we can do that.
Yeah, I agree, and it's not just about adding to the mixture. If you guys have a look at sort of that tier model and say, well, I maybe don't need this, or I need a little bit more of the other, we're 100% sort of flexible and are quite happy to have those conversations with you. Right, so the next question, so it says, what are the next steps after the MOT is complete? So Luke, you kind of bridged that subject in the previous question, but do you want to chat about sort of baselines and what they entail?
100%, yeah. So you're right, mate. We kind of started to allude to this in the last question, but yeah. So out of the back of an MOT, we can start to see the areas which need fixing, and then so with that we can start to look at like a baseline assessment or a managed service or whatever that engagement might be, to start to right size and correct the areas which are going to be found by having a maybe not suboptimal SAM practice. So yeah, so from doing these baselines of various vendors, we can then, as we mentioned earlier, start to right size those indiscrepancies that we see. I'm not sure if you have anything to add to that one, May.
Yeah, so the next step is quite logically a baseline, but I guess it depends a little bit about what sort of gaps were found. So if there were huge sort of process gaps, then we sort of might throw a process review into the pot there. But yeah, 100%. Find out where you are. I mean, SAM is a journey, and if you don't know where you are, you certainly don't know how to get to where you're aiming to be. So that's very true. And then we've just got one more question, and it says here, can we just get the SaaS option from the MOT. So I'm presuming they just want to look at Office 365, which is kind of our SAMplicity offering, isn't it? The SAMplicity 365, Luke.
Yeah, that's sure. So again, a great question, and yeah, the answer is yes. So in a nutshell, as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, we looked at our SAMplicity 365 offering. So that is essentially what's being described here. So with that's the 365 piece of the SAM MOT. So just to go into that in a little bit more detail, as we kind of went over earlier. So what this is an overview of your Office 365 tenancy, as we're seeing a lot of people move to cloud subscription models. So as we went over earlier, we deploy a small tool which looks at your Office 365 tenancy, and then we can start to kind of visualize how Office 365 is being used within an environment, see who's using what software, whether they need to be using that software, whether they're oversubscribed, so they might be on an E5 when they don't need to be, or whatever that may be. We can then look at that and then optimize as per.
In fact, Luke, there's been a survey by our partners TBSC recently that suggested up to 21% of their customers' 365 accounts are actually inactive and in need of disallocation.
Yeah, 100%. So this can be a great way to right size those problems, especially with things. Turnover of staff. This can be invaluable to you. If it really helps you get a handle on your Office 365 and optimizing the licenses. Cool. Was there any other questions, May?
No, that's it. Just 3 today. But yeah, all very good questions in my eyes. Obviously, everyone that's on the call will get a copy of this recording, if you need to get hold of us after the event, if you think of anything that you haven't asked, or you perhaps want to get some pricing, I think, Luke, they have our contact details, don't they?
100%, yeah. So we would have reached out to you in the with the webinar link. So yeah, any questions or anything moving forward, please follow up with the email that you received the webinar link from.
Brilliant. So thank you again, everyone, for your time, and we wish you all lovely afternoons, and hope to speak to you soon.
Cheers, guys. Take care.